All right. I think we are live. Um, Let me make sure that we are. Sorry, I have to try and make sure that we are actually live. Yes, we are live. Okay, awesome. Um, this is this is the first live stream um, for for the College Football Fanatics podcast, and things are this is pretty new to me. This is really interesting. So I do have to actually just do one thing on my phone before we can start the show completely. But once I do that, I can completely switch to um, the um to the episode to talk about um uh our there we go. Okay. Oh, sorry, one more thing. Um all right. So we are here with college football once again. It is week 14. Yeah, 14. And we are watching for you could call it or for sorry, we were watching championship week football. As you can see, I have my Michigan jersey on, and I am very, very excited. Um, yeah, so I'm very excited for this episode or this show because it is my first live stream, and I have not done anything like this before. So if the sound is a little wonky or something like that, let me know. Um, all of that um, uh, all of that can be changed. I just, all I have to do is just let me know. It should be okay though, but like I said, this is my first time doing a live stream, so I hope you guys will enjoy it. This will also be up on YouTube afterwards, so that anybody who wants to come watch it after can. Although I don't know why you would want to. It's just going to be. It's just going to be. Redundant because the games will have already been played. But so let's start with actually the intro, and we can then go from there. But here we go with the intro. So that was the intro. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let's start and kick off and talk about let's kick off into talking about the game that we saw last night and my prediction for it and my inaccuracy because I did not predict the game very well. I thought that Oregon was going to win, but for the second time in a row, Washington did actually win. So it is a little it was a little I was a little disappointed that Washington won, but I found the game very fun to watch. It was obviously very close. The final score was 34-31. I did think Washington played significantly better though. I just you look at it and things look very similar to the first game that they played. Both quarterbacks throwing for a lot of yards, with the exception of, I shouldn't say with the exception. Bo Nix did not throw it for as many yards as I thought he would. Washington's secondary played very, very well against him. So that is one of the the minuses for Oregon that actually lost them this game, was that he did not play as well as I had thought he was going to play. The interesting thing though is that he had an interception. Well, I shouldn't say interesting. One of the interesting things and funny things, in my opinion, is that he had an interception. A lot like I don't know, third quarter. And then like 2 plays later, Michael Penix throws an interception. So it was quite interesting to watch. It was quite interesting to watch Michael Penix throw that interception after I was just like, what is going on? Or it might have been actually, no, sorry. It was Michael Penix threw an interception, and then Bo Nix threw the interception. That I got it mixed around. It was the other way around. My bad. But it was still quite amusing to watch, to see that kind of come to fruition. And there's just nothing like, I just sat there and I was like, so they're just giving the ball back to each other at this point. So that was fun to watch. Bo Nix had a relatively good game. He had 21 completions for 34 attempts, 239 yards, 7 yards average, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. And for most quarterbacks, that would be a good game. For him, that's a bad game. He also had 6 carries for 69 yards, with a 44-yard long rush. Jordan James was Oregon's leading non-quarterback rusher. He had 5 carries for 35 yards. It didn't do very well. Tez Johnson was Oregon's leading receiver. He had 5 receptions for 68 yards, 13-yard average. And then Trayshawn Holden was the second receiver with one reception for 63 yards. That was the thing that I felt was pretty interesting about Oregon, was that they relied a lot on explosive plays, because they could not really get a lot, it felt like, going against the Washington defense, which was pretty cool to see. Now, let's switch to Washington. Michael Penix Jr. He threw for 27 completions for 39 attempts, 319 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. Interesting thing. Dylan Johnson had 2 completions for 2 attempts, for 5 yards and 1 touchdown. So their running back also had a completion. Also had a couple of completions and a touchdown pass, which is wild. Dylan Johnson was their leading rusher. Also, he had 28 carries for 152 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a 5.4 yard average. And then Jalen McMillan was Washington's leading receiver. He had 9 receptions for 131 yards and a 14.6 yard average. And Roma Dunze was behind him with 8 receptions for 102 yards with a 12.8 yard average. So that was one of the interesting those were some of the stats from the game and all of that. But I enjoyed watching it because it defied my expectations. Washington, I had an episode that I had actually made, and I was trying to put out about 3 hours before the game. But unfortunately, my computer decided that it wanted to be so slow, like the slowest computer on the planet, because it has never been as slow as it was yesterday. And it was taking so long to send the live stream. It was ridiculous. And it was also quite annoying that that was going on. But yeah, no. So that is, so I was not able to put out that video, and in that video I did talk about this game. The line was -10 Oregon, and I did put out a post on YouTube saying that my prediction for the game was going to be 35-21 Oregon. I thought Oregon was going to thoroughly dominate this game, but that's not what happened. The defense got a lot of pressure on Bo Nix, more than I thought they were going to. The Oregon offensive line kind of looked like it collapsed at times. Like players just like got through like they were going to get milk from the grocery store. I mean, it was not a good day for that Oregon offensive line. But the defense was able to limit the damage that Bo Nix was able to do. And it was a significantly different game that played out than I thought it was. I was also right in that an early lead for Washington was a really important piece, because if they didn't get out early, I did think that Oregon would be able to come back later on and try and win the game. And they almost did. I shouldn't say they almost did. They scored a touchdown with 2 minutes left, and then unfortunately their defense just was not able to force Washington to punt. That was just an unfortunate thing for Oregon, but it was pretty fun to watch nonetheless. Now, let's see what else. Yeah, Oregon. There were a decent amount of like 20+ yard plays on both sides. So Oregon was not able to limit Washington's what's it called? He was not able to limit Washington's big yardage plays, explosive plays, which is unfortunate. Oregon put decent amounts of pressure on Michael Penix, so it wasn't that great though. So that was a portion of them losing. So now with that win over Oregon, Washington has cemented its spot into the playoffs. So we're guaranteed to see Washington. Now we play the rest of the games. Florida State plays at noon. I believe Georgia and Alabama play at 4:00. Michigan plays at 8. And then I can't remember when Texas plays. Um, but it's going to be a good Saturday filled with college football because I always love championships because anything can happen, and everything does happen. So it's Oklahoma State and Texas play at 11:00, which I did not think they were playing that early. I thought it was noon, but they are playing at 11:00. Georgia and Alabama play at 3:00. SMU and Tulane play at 3:00, which we're not going to talk about them. That is a relatively useless. What's it called? Oh, my bad. Sorry. No, I was right. It is 12:00. That Oregon and Texas play at 4:00. That Georgia and Alabama. My computer is acting funny. I don't know why. So it's my bad, but it is 4:00. SMU and Tulane also 4:00. Michigan and Iowa 8:00, and Louisville and Florida State also 8:00. So it's going to be a fun game, fun thing. So let's start with the Florida State Louisville game. So the line for Florida State Louisville is Florida State minus 1.5. The over under is 47.5. And I think this is going to be a really close game. So this should be a pretty fun game to watch, and I hope you guys are going to watch it. Let's start with some stats regarding both Florida State and Louisville, but let's start with Florida State. So these stats are going to be a little upskewed because these are stats from the season and not from when they have their backup in the Tate Rodemaker, who is a game time decision for today. So we'll see what happens there. But let's start anyway. So an average of 419 yards. That's 35th in FBS on offense and 5th in the ACC. Rushing yards is 156.2. That's 68th in FBS and 10th in the ACC. Passing yards 263.2. That's 26th in the FBS and 2nd in the ACC. Points per game is 38.8. That's 10th in the FBS and 1st in the ACC. Now on defensive side of the ball, they are 295.9. That's 18th in FBS and 2nd in the ACC. 140.2, 46th in FBS and 5th in the ACC. 155.8, that's 9th in FBS and 3rd in ACC. And 16.8 points allowed. That's 11th in the FBS and 1st in the ACC. Now to look at Louisville, their offense they get 426.3 yards per game. That's 29th in the FBS and 3rd in the ACC. They have 184.7 rushing yards per game. That's 3rd in the FBS and 4th in the ACC. They pass for 241.7 yards per game, 45th in FBS, 5th in the ACC. And then 33 points per game. That's 32nd in FBS and 3rd in the ACC. Now on defense, They only give up 298 yards per game. That is 19th in FBS and third in the ACC. They give up 96.8 rushing yards per game. That's 12th in the FBS and first in the ACC. And passing yards per game, they give up 201.2. That's 47th in FBS, 8th in the ACC. And they give up 20 points on average per game. That's 25th in FBS and 4th in the ACC. So, what does FSU need to do to win this game? Well, this is going to be a tricky game for FSU because they are out their star quarterback, Jordan Travis. He got injured. Who was it against? I can't remember who it is against. It was 2 games ago. That completely ended his college career. He made a statement saying that he was not going to be returning to college, and that he'd be submitting his name for the draft. So this is all gonna be on backup Tate Rodemaker if he's even playing the game, because he got a targeting hit on him during the Florida game that looked bad, and it was released that he would be a game time decision. He missed the rest of that Florida game. So it's gonna rely a lot on whoever their quarterback is. If Tate Rodemaker is in, I put Florida State having a much better chance of winning. I don't think he's anything particularly special as a quarterback, but he is the backup. So he has played some reps. I don't know if their third string has played any reps this season. I haven't actually done any research on their third string, or at least not much. But what they need to do is against Florida, they threw the ball 25 times and completed it 12 for a total of 134 yards. They need to do a better job than that. They cannot, they really can't just sit by and kind of rely on their defense to do things for them. Otherwise, this is going to be a long day for them. Louisville is a good team. Louisville just won't lay down and wait to be beat on the football field. So it is going to be a bit of a tough game for them. But I think, I think FSU is going to be good, but I don't think ultimately they're going to be able to face up against Louisville. Jared Verse is going to have to put a lot of pressure on Louisville, and he's going to have to be a great run stopping edge this week, because otherwise, Louisville does a good job of relatively balancing their offense. Like I said, they have 184 rushing yards per game, and 241 passing yards. So that's a decent job that's a pretty good job of equaling things out. So, and the other thing is that Trey Benson will have to. He's gonna have to really get things going on the ground to open up the passing game, because they are going to have to rely on him to get necessary yards in important down situations. And it's going to be a tough game for him. And I expect them to run the ball more often than they usually do. His season stats are 138 attempts. He has 138 attempts, 878 yards, 838 yards and 14 touchdowns. And he has a long run of 85 yards that went for a touchdown. But like I said, they're going to have to rely on him. They can't They can't just pass the ball and rely on their quarterback because, like I said, their star quarterback is out. Their backup might be out, so they might be playing with their third string quarterback. And if you can't get anything going on the ground, then then Florida State is going to have a very, very, very long day, and it's going to be tough. They're gonna have to be efficient on third and fourth downs. Um, you can't have you can't have a 3rd and 8 too often. You need to have short yardage third downs. You need to have like 3rd and 2 and 3rd and 3 and stuff like that. And Trey Benson's gonna have to have is gonna have to have like a 4-yard, 5-yard average carry for this game if they're really gonna want to win, maybe even 6 yards per carry. Right now he's sitting at about 6.07 yards per carry. So now let's look at Louisville and let's look at their side of the ball. Louisville needs to complete their drives with touchdowns. They do a relatively decent job of that, but you can always do better. They need to finish every drive as much as they can with a touchdown. And if they can't do it, can't finish it with a touchdown, they need to stop FSU from finishing their drives with touchdowns. Keon Coleman is one of, if not Florida State's best receiver. They're going to have to restrict him because if you can take away the best and one of the best offensive weapons for Florida State, then you will have a significantly higher chance to win. With Travis out, like I said, Benson will have a larger payload, and they're going to have to limit his explosive plays to around 3 yards a carry or less. He is a very good running back, and I'm not going to be surprised to see him taken in a future NFL draft in the top 3 rounds or something like that, because he is a very good running back. FSU is going to have to Louisville has to force FSU to pass the ball. They're going to have to force Rodemaker if he's in, or the back, or the third stringer, whoever it is. They're going to have to force them to beat them through the air. Otherwise, it's, letting Trey Benson run all over you is not going to be good for your winning health, like I like to think. And then they have to just get pressure on Rodemaker as well. Like, that's all that they can really do. So my prediction for the game is going to be 28-24 to Louisville. I think Louisville, with their starting quarterback still in the game, Jack Plummer, which I think is a phenomenal name. I love Plummer. I think that's a great name. But Jack Plummer is there. They have all of their starters, or at least most of their starters, ready to go. Their stars are all there. So they are going to be at mostly full health, at least as full as you can be at the end of the season. And Florida State is going to be hurting a little bit with like I said, with Travis. Oh my God, I can't even. With Jordan Travis out, so that's can't believe I couldn't remember that name, but that's going to be it for the Florida State Louisville game. It should be something of an interesting one, though, and I'm really going to be excited to watch it, because it's college football. You have no clue what's going to happen. Like, I give predictions, and I do believe that these predictions are the most likely thing that's going to happen, but like you just can't predict what's going to happen, like, almost ever. You can give your best thoughts, and you can give what the most likely scenario is, in your opinion. But like everything, sometimes it's like the Michigan Appalachian State game. Now, hi mom, hi dad. You're watching at some point. I'm guessing my sister's probably as well. They're going to be really mad at me for bringing this up, but like the Michigan Appalachian State game in I think '07, Michigan was favored in that game by like I think it's like 30 points, and what happens? They ended up losing that game on a field goal at the end of the game. So, like I said, football's weird. Anything can happen. You can have half your offense go down with injuries, and what happens? Well, there goes your game. Your chances of making a playoff possibly. So, like I said, anything can happen. But I am again very excited for these games. Now let's go on to Georgia versus Alabama. So the line on this game is UGA minus 5.5, and the over/under is 54.5. So Georgia's rankings. So they have 490.9 yards per game. That's good for 6th in college and 2nd in the SEC. They have 185.5 rushing yards per game, which is 32nd in college and 4th in the SEC. They have 305 passing yards per game, 305.4 passing yards per game. That's 8th in college and 2nd in the SEC. Points per game is 39.6, 2nd in the FBS or 7th in the FBS and 2nd in the SEC. Now on the flip side, on the defensive side of the ball, they give up 280.5 yards per game. That's 12th in FBS and 2nd in the SEC. They give up 117.8 rush yards per game, 28th in college, 4th in the SEC. They give up 162.7 passing yards per game. That's 10th in the FBS and 1st in the SEC. And they only give up 15.8 points per game. That's 6th in the FBS and 1st in the SEC. So now looking at Alabama, their offense production is 386.2 yards per game. That's 58th in college and 8th in the SEC. They have 177 yards rushing per game. That's 46th in the FBS and 6th in the SEC. 208.7 passing yards per game. That's 72 in college and 9th in the SEC. And 35.8 points per game. That's 7th in college and 3rd in the SEC. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, 292.4 yards given up per game average. That's 17th in college and 3rd in the SEC. 128.4 rushing yards on an average given up. That's 36th in college and 6th in the FBS, 6th in the SEC. 164 passing yards per game. That's 11th in college and 2nd in the SEC. And they give up 17.9 points per game. That's 14th in college and 2nd in the SEC. That's and that's going. Those numbers are going to be pretty crucial because when you look at Georgia is a significantly better team in my opinion. But it's also going to rely a lot upon, is Brock Bowers going to be in this game? Now, he's probably not going to be in this game from what I hear. And Ladd McConkey is also probably out. So Carson Beck is going to have to rely on his other receivers. He's going to have to rely on Dominic Lovett and as well as Marcus Marcus Razami-Jacksaint. I could not see that name. But he's also going to have to rely on rushing, which is going to be extremely important in this game. So Dejun Edwards with 148 attempts and 780 yards this season is going to be relied upon a lot. And also Kendall Milton is also going to be relied upon a lot. He has 99 carries for 644 yards. So he'll almost definitely break 100 carries in this game. But Carson Beck is going to have to play, his own great game. He's pretty accurate. He has a 72% accuracy percentage or completion percentage. So his accuracy is not something I am worried about entirely. I am worried about his wide receivers getting open, given that his best receivers, which is Brock Bowers, and two of his best receivers, Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey, are out of this game. So it is going to be a significantly reduced offensive production. But Brock Bowers has been out for several weeks already, so this isn't going to be a new thing, and they've been able to carry on without him so far. So that's going to be one of Georgia's important things is how are they going to do in this game? So now let's look at Alabama. Alabama is currently 48% on third downs. So if they're going to win this game, they're going to have to be much better on third downs. They did not play well, in my opinion, against some of their more recent opponents. I'm not just talking about Auburn. They should have won that Auburn game by a significant larger margin than they did. But whatever, they didn't. I'm talking more about like things like the Tennessee game, although Tennessee was ranked at the time, so I can't really blame them. But the fact of the matter is that Alabama is not what they have been the past few years, and I am a bit worried to see that. Texas A&M, again, they only won by 6 points in that Texas A&M game, and it was a significantly closer game than I think most people thought it was going to be, given how bad Texas A&M is. They did just fire their head coach, so it's going to be an important. This is going to be an important game for them. If by some miracle Alabama does win, they're going to probably punch their ticket to a playoff spot. And if they lose, then obviously Georgia is still in for the playoff spot. I will say though, one thing that I do like about Alabama is the past few years, Alabama was such a pass heavy team. It felt like that, like every play just felt like they were giving it to Bryce Young to pass. And this season, Alabama feels like a much more balanced team. They rely not only on their quarterback's legs and arm to win the game, but also on their running backs as well, which is, say what you will, maybe they're not as good as they have been the past few years, but I think that's a step in the right direction. And to back that up, Nick Saban also thinks that's a step in the right direction, because earlier this year, or at the beginning of the season, he said that they relied too much on Bryce Young and his immense talent, which unfortunately we have not seen yet come through in the professional game. But he had his immense talent at college. And so they relied significantly on his ability, which is, it's standard. We have a great player. You rely a lot on them. Every team that is currently in the college football playoffs has a player that they rely immensely upon. But he said they got too Bryce Young centric. And that they had to spread the ball out a little more. So they decided to run the ball a little more. They decided to let their quarterback, Joe Milton, or not Joe Milton, sorry, Jalen Milroe. God, Joe Milton. He's Tennessee's quarterback, not playing in this game. Jalen Milroe, they decided to let Jalen Milroe run the ball a little bit. They decided to let him throw the ball, and they also decided to trust Jace McClellan with the ball on the ground as well. So they did definitely decide to spread it out a little more. Jalen Milroe has 700 yards on the ground almost. 440 yards. I'm looking at a stat of gain that says 600 yards or almost 700 yards, but it's not counting like sacks and stuff like that. So, but whatever. Nonetheless, he has about 440 yards on the ground. So in total, he has about 3,000 yards, both running and passing, because he has 2,526 yards through the air. His completion percentage is 66%, and he has 21 touchdowns through the air and 12 on the ground. So I'm guessing we're going to see a lot of Jalen Milroe. I don't know if we're going to see a pass like we did against Auburn at the end of the game, where he fitted into a very small area very well. So it is going to be a bit different, and I am excited to see what Georgia can do and what Alabama can do. My prediction for the game is that Georgia is going to win. Let me scroll up for my numbers. I think they're going to have a 35-21 win. I think Georgia is a much better team overall. I think they're better on defense. I think they're better on offense. So I don't think it's going to come down to like the last play of the game. All right. Texas and Oklahoma State. I think I have Texas predicted to win this game 31-7. I don't think it's going to be particularly close in any sort of respective. Oklahoma State's a decent team, but I think Texas is just much better. So Texas is favored, and on the line it's minus 15.5. The over under is 54.5. So the offense, let's look at let's look at Oklahoma State's offense first, then we'll go to Texas. Offense and defense, and then we'll go to Texas. So offense usually gains around 425.3 yards on average. That's 30th in the FBS and 7th in the Big 12. Rushing offense is 167.3 and 158. That's 58th in that is 58th in FBS and 8th in the Big 12. Passing yards, they usually get 258 yards on average. That's 30th in FBS and 4th in the Big 12, and they usually score 30.2 points per game. That's 50th in the FBS and 8th in the Big 12. On defense, Oklahoma State gives up 412.3 yards per game. That's a lot of yards. That is a very bad statistic for them. That's 113th in college and 13th in the Big 12. They give up 172 yards rushing. That's 104th in college and 10th in the Big 12. 240.3 yards rushing. That's 114th in FBS and 12th in the Big 12. And they give up 27.3 points per game. That is 78th in FBS and 8th in the Big 12. Yeah, it's gonna be difficult against this Texas team. So Texas, let's look at their stats now, because I love stats, which is very, very accurate that I do love stats. So Texas is 449 yards per game. That's 16th in FBS and 4th in the Big 12. 188.3 rushing yards. That's 26th in FBS and 6th in the Big 12. Passing yards, they have 261, 27th in FBS, 3rd in the Big 12, and they scored 35.1 points per game. That's 22nd in FBS and 3rd in the Big 12. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, they give up 308.6 yards per game. That's 1st in the Big 12 and 27th in college. Rushing yards per game, they give up 85.2. That's 5th in college and 1st in the Big 10. Passing yards, they give up 223.5. That's 85th in FBS and 7th in the Big 12. And they only give up 17.2 points per game on average. Now, some of the important things about this game is Quinn Ewers is going to have to be electric through the air to do what I think he's going to do against this defense. This Oklahoma State defense, it is not very good, unfortunately, for Oklahoma State, and their offense is better, but not by significant margins. I shouldn't say that actually. Their offense is significantly better than their defense. It is obviously what led them to this championship game, because when you have the 113th defense in yards per game, you're not going to be doing very well, likely, in giving up points, especially since they're 78th in points per game on defense. Their quarterback, Alan Bowman, former Michigan man, is he has 10 touchdowns in this season. He has 11 interceptions. He has more interceptions than touchdowns. That is not something that you want. That is what I like to call a bad quarterback. He just I haven't watched too much of Oklahoma State, I'll admit. But having an interception percentage, having more interceptions than touchdowns is really not something that you want, given that if it's just you'd like to avoid that. He does have about 2,800 yards on the season, and his completion percentage is 59.9%, which is a little low. Just saying, just a little low. But the good thing about Oklahoma State is that they do not only rely on their quarterback, they actually have a competent running back. Ollie Gordon has 245 attempts for 1,600 yards for 1,500 yards and 20 touchdowns. That's a pretty significant running back stat. If he were on, say, like Georgia, he'd probably be in a Heisman race contention. And playing in the SEC. Unfortunately, he plays in the Big 12, and it kind of takes away from his luster. But I remember last year before Blake Corum got injured, Blake Corum was in the Heisman talks, and he had even smaller numbers than these. I mean, I think he finished the season with like 1,400 yards and 18 touchdowns or something like that. Sorry, I had to cough there for a second. So he finished the season with like 1,400 yards and 18 touchdowns, and he was in Heisman talks. Fortunately for Blake Corum, is he plays in the Big Ten Conference, where he gets a little more exposure. And he plays generally some tougher defenses. And unfortunately, playing in the Big 12 just is not great for your Heisman contention more often than not. So Alan Bowman is going to probably have to play the best game of his life, and Ollie Gordon is also going to have to play the best game of his life to overcome, in what my opinion is, a very good Texas defense. So, what is Texas going to have to do to win this game? Well, they're going to have to play as they usually do. Quinn Ewers is going to have to continue his 69% completion percentage. He's going to have to throw touchdowns more often than he throws interceptions, which he normally does. He has 17 touchdown passes and 5 interceptions. So he's pretty good on that front. He is not Alan Bowman, to be sure. I am giving a lot of hate to Alan Bowman, I know, but he is a former Michigan man, and unfortunately, when you leave Michigan, I no longer have any loyalty towards you and whatsoever. Unless you graduate, then I have loyalty towards you. I'm looking at you, former Michigan graduates who are now playing in the NFL. Aiden Hutchinson, love that guy. But once you leave, once you transfer out of Michigan, like I said, I have no loyalty. So Texas is also going to have to rely on Jonathan Brooks, their best running back. He has 1,100 yards on the season so far, and his average he's averaging 6 yards a carry, which is very good for a running back. You need to have, in running back terms, 5 yards a carry is good. Anything more than that is pretty good. Anything around like 8 yards a carry is like an elite quarterback, like, or running back. Sorry, is an elite running back. Like, you're not going to get much better than that. He also has 10 touchdowns on the season, so that'll be some interesting things to watch. So, you know, Texas is also gonna have to rely on their star wide receivers, Xavier Worthy and Adonai Mitchell, who have 800, almost 900 and 700 yards respectively. So, like I said, it's gonna be a big game for Texas. Texas is a very, very good football team. I have no doubt that they're going to win this game. I think they're going to win it by significant margin. Like I said, my projected score is 31-7. I don't think Oklahoma State is a particularly talented team on their defensive side of the ball. On their offensive side of the ball, I think they can struggle to move the ball, which we have seen several times in the past couple of in the past season, I should say. So I have watched a few games. I haven't watched a lot, but I've watched a few games. All right. Let me get some water, and I will be right back. I just need to get something for my throat. Thank you for waiting patiently while I got water. I should have done that before I started this live stream, but I did start a little earlier than I had and that I had meant to. But you know, all is good. All right. So, moving on to my final game of the week, and the game that I am quite obviously most excited for, given that it is my favorite team, and that's the Michigan-Iowa Big Ten Championship. And I am very much excited because this is the final Big Ten Championship where the Big Ten has the East and the West. They are moving away from that and going to pods next year when UCLA, USC, Oregon, and Washington join the Big Ten. So it's not going to be a particularly close game for Michigan and Iowa. Michigan is a significantly better team, and Iowa is missing like all of their best players. So let's get into it before 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 the game starts because I have been taking so long. So all right. So Michigan is currently sorry. Okay. Michigan is currently they're off, so let's go through some of their stats. They tend to they are not a super like we're gonna get a lot of yards on you. They're like we're gonna get the yards we need to beat you. So their yards per game is 385.6 yards. That's 59th in college football and second in the Big Ten. Their rush yards are 169.8 per game, 54th in college football and third in the Big Ten. Passing yards per game, 215.8, 60th in college football and fourth in the Big Ten. And their points per game are 37.6, 13th in college football and first in the Big Ten. Their defense, they give up 229 yards per game. That's second in college football and second in the Big Ten. They give up 91.4 rushing yards per game. That's seventh in college and second in the Big Ten. They give up 137.8 yards through the air, fourth in college football, third in the Big Ten, and 10.2 points per game. That's first in college football and first in the Big Ten. So, sorry, there was an alert with my live stream. My apologies. But we are moving now on to Iowa. So, Iowa has the worst offense in college football. And this is not an exaggeration. I'm going to show you the stats or tell you the stats. But it is the worst offense. So their yards per game, 231.8. That's 133rd in FBS, dead last. And as you can probably guess, that's also last in the Big Ten. They are 123.9 rushing yards per game. That's 104th in FBS and 10th in the Big Ten. Surprisingly, not last. They have 107.9 passing yards per game, 130th in FBS and 14th in the Big Ten. You know what schools are behind Iowa in passing yards? Yeah, it's the military schools. Those are the only schools behind Iowa in passing yards. If you're just narrowly edging out military schools in passing yards, it's not a good look for you. It doesn't bode well for your winning health. Because those schools do not pass. They don't pass. They run a triple option offense, and they run the ball like 90% of their plays. So you really don't want that. And Iowa's points per game is 18. That's 124th in FBS and 12th in the Big Ten. Now let's look at the defensive side of the ball. 271.3 yards let up per game. That's 8th in the FBS and 4th in the Big Ten. 104.9, that's 17th in FBS and 4th in the Big Ten. 166.4 passing yards per game. That's 13th in FBS and 4th in the Big Ten. And 112, and sorry, not 112. Jeez, that'd be a lot of points. And 12.2 points per game. That's 4th in FBS and 4th in the Big Ten. It is crazy how many Big Ten teams are in the top scoring defenses in the country. All right, so Iowa. Let's look at some of the things that Iowa is about. So Iowa has scored a total number of 22 total touchdowns this season. Do you want to know who else has scored 22 touchdowns this season? Michigan State has scored 22 touchdowns this season. And they had 2 scoreless games. 2 games where they were blown out by an opponent and had 0 points put on the board. So Iowa has the same number of touchdowns as a team that did not score touchdowns in 2 games. 2. So that's not a good look for Iowa. And the second entity that scored 22 touchdowns this season is also Blake Corum, the running back in which they are playing against. So it is not going to be in my opinion, it's probably not going to be a fun game for Iowa. They are 31% on third down percentage. I don't think I have to say anything about that, because if anybody doesn't understand that 31% on third down is not a good percentage, then they probably don't know much about football and are probably not sure why they're watching this podcast. All right. So some of the Iowa, to win this game, Iowa's going to have to create very short fields. Their defense is probably going to have to outscore their offense. Their defense is going to have to outscore their offense, and their offense is going to have to have 10 yards. Their defense is going to have to make it so that their offense has 10 yards to go. They can't have much longer yards, because their offense is just, I've said it before, and I've said it, as many times as I can. Iowa's offense is just so bad. I mean, there are times where I feel like I want to cry, because watching their offense is feels like torture. If the U.S. military used film of Iowa's offense to torture their prisoners, we would have all of the secrets in the world. There would be no nation that would be able, no person in any nation that could survive watching Iowa's offense on repeat. And I do say this knowing that my aunt is an Iowa graduate, and that my mother is also an Iowa graduate. I say this knowing that they are probably going to watch this episode either right now or when it comes out. So, cheers to you guys. I'm sorry that Iowa is not very good on offense, but silver lining for Iowa fans all across the country, their defense is great. It really is. I've said it before. Their defense is very good, and it's unsurprising given that their defense is always very good. Now, I do think their defensive stats are a little inflated given that they haven't really played anybody. Their best the best team that they won against was Wisconsin, who has a 7-5 record. So unfortunately, that's not great. And they do have losses to Minnesota and Penn State. Penn State, I understand. Minnesota, that game I'm going to give Iowa a pass on. Cooper DeJean should have gotten that touchdown. I will say that until my dying day, because that was not a fair catch. That was not a symbol of a fair catch in any sort of way, and everybody knew it. So if they stopped the play, then they should have flagged all of the Minnesota players for late hits, basically. I hated that play. I hated everything about the refs that replayed that and decided to retroactively take away that touchdown. It was so annoying to me. And I don't have any particular loyalty to Iowa. But they should have gotten that touchdown. They should have 100% gotten that touchdown. All right. So I also want to say that a big problem with Iowa is that they really don't pass the ball. Their leading receiver is a player who has been injured since October 14th. For over a month, he has been he has been injured. They have played 5 games since then. They've played I believe it's 5 games, either 4 or 5 games since then. And nobody has gotten more than 299 yards. Are you kidding me? You can't get 300 yards in 5 games. That is not a good look for Iowa, and it really does not bode well for their passing future. This is going to be a good test, though, for Michigan to test themselves against a very, very good defense. Now, they tested themselves against a very good defense in Ohio State, who I think actually probably has a better defense than Iowa, in my opinion. But it's going to be a good test because they're going to face good defenses in the college football playoffs. And we're going to be able to see, can Michigan move the ball against a defense that is highly talented and is very well endowed for this season. So unfortunately, they are missing Cooper DeJean, their best cornerback. So unfortunately, he is out. But this defense, the thing about Iowa is that even if their offense might not be great, their defense is it's like a pipeline into the NFL because they just have so many great defensive teams. So that I think is all I'm gonna have to say. Oh no, I haven't talked about Michigan yet. So JJ McCarthy, one of the most accurate passers currently in college football. He has about 2,500 yards in the air and a 74% completion percentage. He has 19 touchdowns and 4 interceptions, which is a great touchdown to interception ratio. Sorry, I keep coughing. So he should have a pretty good game against he should have a pretty good game against Iowa. I don't think they're going to air it out a lot. Like, I don't think this is going to be a game where McCarthy has 250 yards. It doesn't seem like this is a game that they're going to risk anything. They'll probably keep the ball on the ground a lot. Give it to Blake Corum, who has almost 1,000 yards on the season. So he has 22 touchdowns and 1,000 yards. So it really is going to be a game where it's going to be somewhat of a slog because they're probably going to rush it quite a bit. But I do expect to see probably 15 passes from JJ, maybe 20, depending on how things are going. I also probably expect him to see him out at about the third quarter, something somewhere around then. So, so it's gonna be an interesting time to see, an interesting moment to see how they come back. Jim Harbaugh is back from his suspension by the Big Ten. So he was suspended for 3 games for in-person scouting activities, BS reasons basically. And the thing that gets me is that they are actively NCAA is actively considering changing the rule because it gives minimal competitive advantage, if any. So you're punishing a coach for something that the NCAA says is giving minimal competitive advantage. You see, okay, I've talked about it quite a bit on this a little bit on this podcast, and I don't think I need to talk about it anymore, but it still pisses me off. All right. So now that we have finished talking about football, about games that are going to be going on today. Oh, sorry. My prediction for this game. Forgot to say that. I think it's going to be 35-3 Michigan. I don't think it's going to be particularly close. The line is -22 and the over/under is 35.5. So it's not going to be a extremely, you know, nitty gritty, like, teams are scoring one right after another type of game. It's not going to be like the Alabama Auburn game. It just, or the Michigan Ohio State game. It's just not going to be like that. So, all right. God, my nose is itchy and I don't know why, but going with it. All right. So let's look at some of the coaching carousel information. So, Jimbo Fisher was fired. He was fired 3 weeks ago. And the reason I know that is because it was right after the Penn State game, basically, that I learned that he was fired. But he will be paid $76 million by Texas A&M, which is an absurd amount of money. Like, I would be able to live very comfortably my entire life on $76 million. And, I hope one day maybe I can make $76 million. Probably more money than I'll make in my lifetime, though. All right. So, next, and he will be replaced by Mike Elko, who is leaving Duke to be the head coach at Texas A&M. After having 2 bad defenses in a row, USC fires their defensive coordinator, Alex Grinch, and they are trying to hire UCLA's defensive coordinator, D'Anton Lynn, which is very good for D'Anton Lynn because he probably won't have to move very far, if at all. I'm not sure if I think USC is in Pasadena. So he might have to move a little bit because LA and Pasadena, I don't know how close they are, but I'm guessing he probably doesn't want to make that a commute like that, especially probably considering UCLA traffic or Los Angeles traffic is a disaster most of the time from what I hear. All right, so Indiana's Tom Allen, their head coach Tom Allen, was fired after his 6th season and his 3rd consecutive losing season. He's going to be paid a $15.5 million buyout, and he's going to be replaced by James Madison's coach, Curt Cignetti. Curt Cignetti has led James Madison to, I believe, an 11-1 season. Just like, Liberty, they had a surprisingly good season. Penn State is has fired their offensive coordinator, Mike Urich, after their loss to Michigan, and it was the second big loss of the season. To replace him, they're bringing in Kansas offensive coordinator Andy Kotelnick. I'm not entirely sure how you pronounce it. I apologize if I butchered it, but they are bringing in an offensive coordinator who has actually done very well at Kansas, who is not known for being a football school. So for leading a good offense at a non-known football school is pretty good. They're pretty much, Kansas is the definition of a basketball school. Like, they are as basketball school as you can get. And their offensive coordinator has been very successful in helping them win a lot of games the past few seasons. Brian Ferentz, Iowa's offensive coordinator, was fired by his father, Kirk Ferentz, the head coach at Iowa, after he failed to meet the 25 points per game requirement that was set before him by the athletic director over at Iowa. Basically saying that, you needed to score this many. Obviously, Iowa did not score that many points. There's still a chance, but I would guess that they're probably not going to score like 100 points in this game. All right. And Michigan State, after firing Mel Tucker, Michigan State has hired Jonathan Smith from Oregon State. Let me just sit up a little bit more. So that is the coaching carousel information that I have right now. There's some other coaching stuff that just it's like smaller schools that like Middle Tennessee State fired their head coach after I think it was like 18 years or something like that. So it's teams that I don't want to say don't matter, but are not well known and are not likely to be well known in any time soon. So, all right. Oh, other coaching news. Michigan's Chris Partridge, who was fired a few weeks ago, released a statement saying that reports coming out that he got fired because he was hiding things or he was covering things up in the investigation for into sign stealing and things like that, and in-person scouting. He released a statement saying that was not true, that he was not fired because of that. He was fired because he refused to stay quiet on the sign stealing information, breaking what rules laid down by the university and by head coach Jim Harbaugh. So that is what he said. That's what he released in a statement. I believe his lawyers released that statement, but they were speaking obviously on his behalf. He released it after the Ohio State game, citing that he didn't want to create more drama from more drama about that has already been more of the drama that has already been given throughout the season. He didn't want to be a distraction to the team, so he released that after the Ohio State game. All right. We are now moving on to transfer portal. Oh, I love the transfer portal. I know the transfer portal is like people either hate it or people love it. I love it because I think it allows I think it allows teams who might not recruit at the highest levels to bring in good players, and it allows them to basically try and get on equal or at least similar footing of the teams like the Michigans, the USCs, the Georgias, the Alabamas of the world. And I really like that. I really like that Oregon State is able to play in a conference championship, or is able to try and play in a conference championship. I shouldn't say play. I do think that is important. It creates more balance in the sport that we all love. So I do like it a lot. Last year, I think it was like 2,100 players entered the portal. I am expecting that number to actually go up this year. With how many players have started entering the portal this season already, it is going to be quite nuts. Sorry, my throat is after talking for like an hour or so, my throat is just a little dry. All right, so I am just checking a little thing on the stream. All right, so let's start with some transfer portal news. So the transfer portal opens on December 4th on Monday, and it closes on January 2nd, given close to a month of people to enter in and leave and commit and stuff like that. So Washington State's Cam Ward leaves after a successful season. He started all three games. He threw for 3,200 yards and 23 touchdowns. Washington State is no doubt sad to see him go, um, but he is going. My guess is he wants to go somewhere where there's a little more. Um, he wants to go somewhere where he'll be on TV a little bit more. So that's what I would guess. Dante Moore, formerly highly recruited uh, quarterback who committed to UCLA, is now leaving UCLA. He was also recruited by places like Michigan, Ohio State, Georgia, Oregon. If there's a big program out there, name it. Um, he committed to UCLA. He started 9 games, and now he wants to go somewhere where he can develop. Um, I don't know really why he's going, but I don't think that him wanting to develop is probably the reason that he's leaving. And I don't know. I don't know if it's true. Like, it feels kind of sketchy or at least silly to me that he doesn't think he can develop at USC or at UCLA. But he probably just wants to go somewhere else. He doesn't think that he's probably getting enough money at UCLA. In 9 games, he threw for 1,600 yards and 11 touchdowns with 9 interceptions. He did start as a true freshman, and he was the number 2 prospect in the 2023 recruiting class. DJ Ugalele does leave Oregon State. This is the second time he's entering the transfer portal. He transferred from Clemson to go to Oregon State. I have been hard on DJU a lot, and the reason I've been hard on him is because I think he gets a lot more credit than he deserves. I do not think he is as good a quarterback as some believe he is. Why he is leaving Oregon State, I couldn't tell you. I don't, but this just, I don't know what to say, because he had a relatively successful season. I think he threw for around like 2,700 yards or something like that. But I don't know where he's gonna go. That's better than Clemson and he might be running from like cute quarterback battles or something like that. I don't know, but man, I do not know. I am not a fan of DJ Uiagalelei. So we'll see where he ends up next. Now, I was really, really surprised to hear this next one. I was like, when I heard this, it stunned me, because I was like, why is he leaving? Riley Leonard, the quarterback at Duke, is leaving after being their starter. I don't understand. All 4 players that we have talked about so far have all been starters on their team. They're not backups anywhere. They are starters. So I'm baffled. And he didn't have a bad year at Duke. He got injured, which wasn't great, but like, from when he was playing well, and Duke was doing well. I don't know why he's leaving, but I think it's a mistake. I think he should probably stay at Duke, because I don't see them replacing him, given how well he's played for them. But I do think he leaves with 1 year of eligibility left. So, and then Michigan State is a disaster. They've had a lot of players enter the transfer portal. The most significant are all three of their scholarship quarterbacks are leaving. So Katenhausen, Sam Leavitt, and Spencer Brown are all scholarship quarterbacks, and they're all leaving. Not a single scholarship quarterback is staying, which is not a good sign for the future. So Jonathan Smith, when he goes to Michigan State, he has a lot to do on the recruiting trail to try and bring in a quarterback, and he'll definitely have to go to the transfer portal. Maybe he picks up Riley Leonard or DJ Ugalele, or Dante Moore. If he picked up Dante Moore, that would be pretty interesting. If Dante Moore decided to leave UCLA for for Michigan State, like that would be crazy. I think probably the best fit for Jonathan Smith is probably Cam Ward, or actually, I just said that I don't know why DJ Ugalele is transferring out of his school. There's a strong possibility that he is following Jonathan Smith from Oregon State to Michigan State. So Jonathan Smith might have his quarterback of the future in DJ Ugalele. So I am going to be interested to see kind of what happens with that. Yeah, it's going to be, God, it's going to be a weird transfer portal cycle. Raleek Brown, a USC wide receiver, is also transferring is also transferring. He's going out of USC and is leaving for the transfer portal. Don't know where he's gonna go, but he didn't play all that much this season. I think he only caught like 3 passes the entire season. So I'm not entirely surprised, but it is what it is. All right. Next up, Texas A&M, Max Johnson, Max Johnson, who was a quarterback at Texas A&M, is leaving. He was also a quarterback at LSU in 2021. He is leaving, and he is going to be going somewhere for the transfer portal. Now, transfer portal rules state that if a coach is fired or leaves the program, then all of the players that want to transfer out, regardless of how many times they transferred, are eligible immediately. It's kind of crazy to me, but that is that. So that's why DJ Ugalele is able to transfer without problem. It's also why Max Johnson is able to transfer without problems, because their head coaches are leaving, so they'll be eligible immediately. Sorry, I was getting a text. All right. Now, there is one thing that we are going to talk about before I end this show, because I do have to get ready for the rest of the day. I do have to, watch games and things like that. And I'll be ending the live stream a little earlier than I had thought, but I think that it's a good point to end, because I've gone through just about everything that I had. I thought that I was going to have more to talk about, or at least I thought this was going to take me a little longer. It didn't, but it is what it is. All right. So JT Daniels is retiring from college football, citing concussion circumstances. Citing actually concussions is why he is retiring from college football. His career began at USC, where he committed to after being highly recruited. He then went to Georgia, where he played for 3 games in their 2021 championship winning season. After that, he went to West Virginia, where he had a relatively successful career. And now he has ended his career at Rice, where he has played his final year. He has thrown his last football in a professional competitive game, and unfortunately, due to injury, he is now retiring. He announced that less than a week ago, I believe. It is unfortunate that we're going to see him leave, but it is what it is. So goodbye to JT Daniels. So that is going to be it for this for this for this live stream. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. If you have comments, please leave them down below, because this will likely be a video on YouTube. If you have suggestions, I wasn't able to do graphics. It got too complicated. But I am glad that I was able to do this, and I hope you guys have a great championship weekend, Saturday, I should say. The games should all be somewhat enjoyable to watch. Even the boring ones like Michigan, Iowa should probably be enjoyable to watch. But I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I've enjoyed doing the research for it. I've enjoyed setting up for it. I am in a slightly different location than normal. As you can see, I am on my couch instead of at my desk. Being at my desk for like an hour and a half hurts, and I'd rather be on the couch where I am comfortable and I can sit fairly easily. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys all have a great rest of your day, and I hope you have enjoyed this episode. So I will see you guys all in the next episode. It's probably gonna be on Monday. I'll probably record it then and release it.